Okay, we're live. No, sir, we are live.
Good morning. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. We are meeting again at the Mir Moinul Memorial Lecture Series. This is number 11. This is Naz Hussain joining from Houston, Texas. As we said, this lecture series is carried out every month in honor of Mir Moinul Masood, who spent all his professional life in geological exploration in Bangladesh. This is sort of remembering Masood, who carried out his devotion to exploration geology. This is our 11th lecture session in geotechnical subject. All these sessions have given us very important information on Bengal Basin. This series is being conducted by our organizers participating from different parts of the globe. Our main person is Nazim Ahmed, who is taking care of all the subjects and then all the people that he need to contact. Along with we have Murtuza Ahmed Chishti, Manohar Ahmed, Jashimuddin. They are all helping him. And also we have Zoom video administrator Qazi Azizur Rahman, who has been very helpful all the way from the beginning of our sessions that we have been carrying it out for last 12 months or 13 months already. Today's lecture's topic will be on stratigraphic research in the Bengal Basin, facts and question marks. Today's speaker will be Dr. Jürgen Lees, a geoscientist from Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany. Dr. Lees was advisor to Petrobangla and BAPEX for many years. Since the late 1970s, he worked with many of our geological professionals, including Moinul Haq Masood. He worked closely with Jahangir Kabir also. He is still liked by all that worked with him. He has gained a vast knowledge on Bengal Basin and Yangon Basin, I guess. I'm sorry. We are looking forward to listening to the very interesting presentation from Dr. Lees. Along with Dr. Lees, we have guest speaker, Dr. Badrul Imam, Honorary Professor of Geology, University of Dhaka. Badrul was very much associated with Dr. Lees during his active as well as recent years. We will have a memorabilia on Professor Dr. Latif, who was our first teacher, university professor at the department, who was also my teacher and colleague back in 1973 to 75. And we'll have an obituary on the demise of our geoscientist of 24th batch, Muhammad Habibur Rahman. Our moderator today's session will be Jashimuddin, ex-geologist Petrobangla, BAPEX, and international oil companies. Once again, thank you all for joining the session today. I now hand over to Jashimuddin. Thank you. Jashim, you are muted. Unmute yourself. Jashim, you are muted.
I am Jashimuddin. Mr. Naz Hussain already introduced me among all others. I am moderating today. You know about our session and the session keynote speaker and our other speaker, Dr. Budul Imam. Now I request Mr. Najim Ahmed to read the condolence message of Mr. Habibur Rahman.
Good morning, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Nazim Ahmed, Calgary, Canada থেকে। আমি 4th base Geology, Dhaka University, জসিম মনোয়ার চিশতি আমরা একই বেসের। আমি শোক প্রস্তাব পাঠ করছি। আমরা গভীর বেদনার সাথে ভূবিজ্ঞানী মোহাম্মদ হাবিবুর রহমানের মৃত্যুতে শোক প্রকাশ করছি। তিনি স্নাতক সম্মান 24তম বেসে ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটির ছাত্র ছিলেন। কর্মজীবনে তিনি উপজেলা সমবায় কর্মকর্তা হিসাবে শরীয়তপুরের গুসাইরহাটে দায়িত্ব পালন করেছিলেন। গত 2রা নভেম্বর 2021 ফরিদপুর মেডিকেল কলেজ হাসপাতালে হৃদযন্ত্রের ক্রিয়া বন্ধ হয়ে তিনি শেষ নিঃশ্বাস ত্যাগ করেন। আমরা তার শোক সন্তপ্ত পরিবারের সাথে সংহতি প্রকাশ ও বিদেহী আত্মার শান্তি কামনা করছি। সহমর্মবৃন্দ মীর মইনুল হক স্মারক বক্তৃতামালা 11 27 নভেম্বর 2021। সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ। থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ।
Now I request Mr. Murtaza Ahmed Farooq Chishti to, I think, recite about Dr. Latif, our ex-chairman of Geology Department, Dhaka University. Mr. Murtaza Ahmed Farooq, please.
চিশতি,
সরি, জি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? ডক্টর এম এ লতিফ তার কর্মের স্বাক্ষর রয়েছে ভূতত্ত্ব বিভাগের প্রতি ভাজে ভাজে এভাজ ঊর্ধ্ববাদ ক্রমাগত পৌঁছেছে শিক্ষতার উচ্চতার শিখরে। এই বিভাগের জন্মলগ্ন থেকে অর্থাৎ 1949 থেকে সিনিয়র প্রভাষক হিসাবে যোগদান করেন আলিগড় বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের প্রভাষকের চাকরি ছেড়ে। সেই থেকে কোথাও যাননি তিনি, বিলেতে উচ্চ শিক্ষার্থে যাওয়া ছাড়া। 1951 শেষে গমন, 53তে ফেরত আসেন পিএইচডি ডিগ্রি লাভ করে। বিভিন্ন সঙ্গীরা বিভাগ ছেড়ে চলে যান, তিনি এককভাবে হাল ধরেন ভূতত্ত্ব বিভাগের। ল্যাব ছিল না, তাতে কি তিনি মোম দিয়ে কাঠের ব্লক দিয়ে ক্রিস্টাল মডেল তৈরি করেন, ছাত্রদের ক্লাসে শেখাতেন। কিছু নেই, এ মতবাদ তাকে পরাভূত করতে পারেনি, তাই আজ স্বয়ংসম্পূর্ণ ভূতত্ত্ব বিভাগের হিসাবে শিখরে। 1956তে রিডার ও বিভাগীয় প্রধান হিসাবে দায়িত্ব পান। তার মহতী প্রচেষ্টা ও উপাচার্য বিচারপতি ইব্রাহিম সাহেবের অনুপ্রেরণা মাস্টার্স কোর্স চালু হয় 1957-58 শিক্ষাবর্ষে। বিভিন্ন বিভাগের ভূবিজ্ঞান সংশ্লিষ্ট সহকর্মীদের সহযোগিতায় অধ্যয়ন কার্যক্রম চালু হয়। 1967-68 শিক্ষাবর্ষ থেকে সম্মান কোর্স শুরু হয়। ভূতত্ত্ব বিভাগের সর্বপ্রথম চেয়ারম্যান হন জনাব আব্দুল লতিফ স্যার। দেশের তেল গ্যাস আবিষ্কার, উন্নয়ন, উৎপাদন, পানি সম্পদ, খনিজ সম্পদ আবিষ্কার ও উন্নয়নে, বাংলাদেশের ভূতাত্ত্বিক ইতিহাস প্রণয়নে সর্বত্র রয়েছে তার গঠিত বিভাগের ছাত্ররা। রয়েছে নীল অর্থনীতিতে, বদ্বীপ উন্নয়নে, পরিবেশ সংরক্ষণে। এই বিভাগের ছাত্ররা সুনামের সঙ্গে পাঠদান করেছেন। দেশের ও আন্তর্জাতিক স্বনামখ্যাত বিভিন্ন বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে সেবা দিচ্ছেন ও দিয়েছেন বিশ্বখ্যাত বিভিন্ন তেল কোম্পানি ও প্রতিষ্ঠানে। বাংলাদেশ সরকারের প্রশাসনের উচ্চাসনে রয়েছে ও ছিলেন আমাদের প্রজন্ম, পূর্বসূরি ও পরবর্তী প্রজন্মের সময়ের ছাত্ররা। প্রফেসর ডক্টর এম এ লতিফ 1962 সালে জন্মগ্রহণ করেন এবং 2006 সালে পরলোক গমন করেন। আমরা তার আত্মার শান্তি কামনা করছি। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murtuza. Now I like to get opportunity to read the curriculum vitae of Dr. Liz. His academic career, very long career. Dr. Liz, study of geology and geophysics at Cologne University and Munich University. 1965, diploma in geology from Cologne University. 1967, PhD and appointment as scientific assistant at Geological Department of Cologne University. 1972 to 1976, scholarship holder of German Research Foundation, scientific topic, Quaternary Geology, Geological Studies on Atlantic Volcanic Island, Canary Island, Ecores, a contribution to the discussion of climate and sea level changes. 1976, habilitation at Cologne University lecturer. Activities in the framework of bilateral technical cooperation of Federal Institute of Geosciences and Natural Resources, BGR, in behalf of Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development with partner countries. 1977 to 1988, BGR, assignment of Dhaka, Bangladesh, member of German Geological Advisory Group, GGAG, with Petrobangla BAPEX. Focus, application of seismic stratigraphy for a new stratigraphic concept for the Bengal Basin. Cooperation with ONGC in Kolkata, Wadia Institute of Dehradun, and Oil India in Delhi. Presentation of results at CFX conference in Singapore 1982. Prospect and constraint of oil exploration in Bangladesh. BGR, assignment in Yangon, Myanmar, supporting Myanmar Oil Corporation, MOC, in the search for oil and gas in the Irrawaddy Delta Basin. Focus, seismic stratigraphic evaluation. BGR, assignment at BGR headquarters. Country studies with a potential for oil and gas deposits, later attending project work and courses in environmental geology. BGR, temporary assignment in Dhaka, Bangladesh, among other initiating paleomagnetic measurement of exposed Cenozoic rock sequences along Hari River. Now we know it, Shari River, in northeast Bangladesh. Special focus on age of upper marine shale. 1996 to 2003. BGR, assignment in Bangkok, Thailand. Leader of project environmental geology for regional planning under the Ministry of Industry. Focus, sustainable development and use of natural resources. Approach, development of thematic map for regional planners that allow for predominantly environmentally natural land use, as well as maps that are highly sensitive to human activity and natural hazards. 2003, retirement. 208 BGR, short-term assignment in Bangladesh within the framework of BGR GSB project. Environmental geology for regional planning. 2014, initiative to set up a Bangladesh stratigraphic study group. 2015, second short-term assignment in Bangladesh within the framework of BGR GSB project environmental geology for regional planning. 2017, plenary speech at the conference Geology for Sustainable Development, University of Dhaka, stratigraphy of Bengal Basin, Bangladesh, are all question answered. Okay, thank you. And now I request Mr. Jürgen Lies to deliver his presentation.
Dr. Lee, you can start now.
You are
Yes.
muted. Okay.
I have to say I'm very much moved to be back in Bangladesh, and I address all ladies and gentlemen and my old colleagues and friends that you gave me the chance for today to speak about my work in Bangladesh. And when I hear the tune of your language, I honestly say that my heart warms up. It's so familiar to me that I will always think on this very gladful moment today. Yes, the stratigraphic research in Bangladesh, I have to say, is an exciting issue, especially exciting because different opinions exist about the geological age of the sediments of this great Bengal Basin. And with this idea to find out what the truth is about the stratigraphic age of the sediments, I was really moved when I got the chance to explain it to you, where the problems are, where I problems see. And I wish very much that the discussion in the future might bring the whole issue to a good end. Otherwise, I get older and older, but the problem is not yet been solved. And today, I think, might be a milestone if I present my doubts, my facts, and my big question marks. And the intention is that everybody who is interested in this issue should start moving in and getting new ideas to solve it. And with this introducing remarks, I will already go into the details more and more to showing you the next slide, please. Can you see? Yes. I will first give you a kind of overview about the topics in my speech today. One is, of course, the setup from the beginning of a seismic survey network. This is very much important for getting exact or good data for the exploration work. And in more detail, we will view into the stratigraphic importance of marker reflectors. And there are, let's say, two very important reflectors which can shed a light on the stratigraphic age of the sedimentary sequences. One is the reflector R1, you all know it, maybe as a UMS or upper marine shale reflector. And the reflector which we gave the first name is the reflector R3, it's just this reflector where the stratigraphic age is very strongly debated since many years, but until now, to this moment, I think it's not yet solved as it should be after this long time. And finally, I will shed some light on the influences of neighbored regions of northeast Bangladesh. This is the Brahmaputra river basin, just in front of the Himalayas. And this will play also an important role in the assessment of the younger sequences, what you call Tipam and Tupitila and many other stratigraphic names, which are originally derived from Assam, but they are also this issue is also moved to Bangladesh, and sometimes it's difficult to differentiate between Assam Tipam and Bangladesh Tipam, Jirujan clays in Assam and Jirujan clays in Bangladesh, and so on. And then we can go, because the time is also stepping forward to the next slide. If you put the next slide, please. It's very moving to me too, because this was the first paper which we published about the prospects and constraints of oil exploration in Bangladesh. This paper was written after 2 years of seismic exploration, and the data in this paper, they are still debatable, but I would like to make you familiar with the debate. This is actually an excerpt of the whole paper, which we presented in February '82 on the CPEX conference in Singapore. And this is I want to take this paper also as a possibility to give my best greetings to my former co-author of this paper, Jahangir Kabir. And this will bring him and me together, all these nice memories which we shared during these years in the fields and in the offices in Dhaka city. This was a great experience for me. And now we go to the second or third next slide, which you see here. This is a list of seismic sections which cover nearly all Bangladesh, which we prepared in the very early first years in the form of fence diagrams. We didn't have these very modern methodologies and other instruments which make it today very much easier to present large paper rolls of seismic sections as we did it in these past years. And we had to reduce it, but all these sections which you see here, we go in more detail, of course, but all these sections which you see here are reduced to scale, to true scale. This was a hell of work until such an overview picture could be derived. The next slide, please. Here is the one which is part of these whole fence diagrams, which shows the first regional seismic section in Bangladesh, which is running in the northeast from the stable shelf with the very discussed and disputed results from the Singra well down to the Hatia Trough. This is not only the part of the red line, somewhere to the place where the Muladi well is, the first green marked well. This is a line PK1 and PK1 extension, which has been very often used in the work in Bangladesh and even still today. I can always do it on paper sheets, old paper sheets, which I saved for me when I left Bangladesh in 1983. But I came always back in between and could also take back home my very used seismic sections. And we have not only these in the insert on the upper side, the white insert there are also some seismic lines shown which focus on the Soma Basin. They are in blue color there, and altogether they resulted later in this picture which you just saw before, with the many fence diagrams. Next, please. The next, please. Yes, okay. And now you see the long regional line here in yellow color. And this is on the top, it's the PK1 and PK1 extension line. Somewhere on the left side, there's a Singra location. And on the right side, this is the location of the Muladi well. And the section below, the quadratic section, has to be thought on connected with the PK1 line on top. Then the seismic line below, and at the lower part, the section still behind the last one. There's a small gap in between the upper one and the lower one, but anyway, the gap was not easy to bridge. But Petrobangla lines and other lines which we had, they had not the deep reach down to more than 4 or 5 seconds. And then I would draw your attention on one reflector, which is called in the upper section the R1 reflector. We will get to the age discussion later, a little bit later, for this reflector. And then most importantly, and I dare to say for all over Bangladesh, is the R3 reflector. And the easiest to recognize is the last one, the R5, which is the reflector for the Sylhet limestone. And you can see how all these reflectors dip down in the zone of the hinge zone area, entering into the very deep Bengal Basin. The limestone reflector at the end of the uppermost line, the R5 reflector at its end, goes down to nearly 7 seconds two-way time, which are depths about 14,000 meters already at this time for the Eocene limestone. You might imagine the generally thick sequence on top of that limestone, which is Oligocene, Miocene, Pliocene, and finally Pleistocene, taken together in different sequences. So, and they are explained on the right-hand side. Could you please go ahead with the next one? The next slide, please. Here you see the Prakla seismic at the end of the first line, the PK1 line in the hinge zone area, from northwest to southeast running. Here is a little bit more differentiated into sequences A, B, sequence C and D, which comprise Oligocene and Miocene sediments after my interpretation. And then more downwards, Eocene sequence R5, which we talked about just before, and the Cretaceous transgression reflector over the basement, over Gondwana and volcanics. And the R1 reflector, which is also interesting to be mentioned, the yellow one here, the boundary between Pleistocene and Pliocene. This is not in the surface anymore on reachable depths, because the reflector is best developed only in the deeper parts of the Soma Basin. And we trace this reflector from the Soma Basin through a dense network of seismic lines towards the shelf area. And there he becomes eroded, which you see in the cut and fill channel structures. And the next slide The next slide shows you the complete Prakla seismic grid in the two areas, which were the focal points of our work. This is the Northwest Shelf area. Then it goes down into the deeper parts of the basin. And this section here, this Soma Basin area, is very much in the northeast. And here we drilled two wells, the Biani Bazar well, which is here, and the Zakiganj or Atgram well, this was here in the north, or is here in the northeast. And Prakla did a good job in very much splitting all these areas into a very dense grid of seismic. And we used later a connection from the northwest into the northeast. And then there were long regional lines which turned back again to the northwest, to the shelf. And we could see how certain reflectors wedged out when it came to the lift to the shelf area. So a deep basin was crossed by seismic sections with very interesting seismic information. And for Singra, it was certainly the key well Singra, which gave rise to the question marks in my heading of this meeting. And from the West Bengal side, it was the well Jalangi, which very much supported the findings from the shelf. So the West Bengal was closely cooperating with us that we could use their data. By the way, we had a lot of discussion. It was a very good atmosphere at this time with colleagues from ONGC, and I had a chance to visit them many times in the Vadia Institute in Dehradun, or with ONGC in Delhi, or India in Delhi. And so a strong support was given us in these very first years to us, and later also, but it became a little bit tougher, which is understandable. And now I will go a little bit further with the next slide. Yeah, this is a seismic section which some of you may know. It is taken out from a Basin research paper and compiled by Mrs. Natschmann, Y. Natschmann et al. She is very much also interested in research work, mainly with the uplift and timing of the Himalayas and of the Shillong Plateau. And we learned each other to be known, and we exchanged also many, sometimes also debating emails and conversations. And she published in this paper, which is written down here, a long north-south profile. You can see it's the old people under you, block 16 here, block 17, and it go more to the south even. And very interesting is that they also mapped at this time this reflector, which is the upper marine shale or OMS reflector in the violet color. This is the Sangu well here. And this OMS or upper marine shale reflector goes more to the south, even to a depth of about 4.5 seconds, which is rather deep, many 15,000 or even more meter depths of a very young, in my opinion, a very young seismic reflector. And if we could go back right now to the if we go back right now, or you could remember the depths of the UMS on the long regional seismic section, which I showed you before. There is the UMS, which we mapped in the regional profiles and in the prolonged profile, not only using the Prakla lines, but also the following lines down to the Hatya trough. The UMS, which we mapped there, is also very close to that 4.5 level. So that I was thinking that the depth is very correctly mapped on these first lines from the shelf to the basin. They started their regional line here on the northernmost point of the Soma Basin in north-south direction. Okay, next line, please. Slide. So now we make a jump to another reflector, not R3, but R1 is it now, the UMS, in the northeasternmost corner of the Soma Basin. You can see on the upper part the Daupi fault system, and then are shown the Atgram well, which was drilled with German financial support in 83, 84, I guess. No, earlier, 82, 81, 82. It's this time. And the other wells, which were drilled by PPL, I think, it was Silet, and from Shale, it was drilled Kaila-Stila. And you see the depth contour map here of the upper marine shales, and the cutting out or erecting out cells where the wells are sitting on, the Silet well here, and the strong uplifted Atgram well. And remarkable are two major troughs here, which is the Goyan trough on the upper left side and the Kushiara trough at the right-hand side close to the Atgram well. And the upper marine shales are here at a depth in localized troughs down to more than 5,000 meters, which is also a remarkable depth. So, okay, we go to the next slide. Yes. Here, looking back on the marker R1 or R1, which was measured by Paleomagnetic. This was in the early 90s when I came back to Bangladesh again for a couple of months, and we organized a crew with Petrobangla staff, and I was from the German advisory group there. The other friends from Germany, they were already gone back or went to other countries doing their work there. We selected the Hari River on the right-hand side, where it leaves the mountain area or hill area of the Shillong Plateau, getting down into the flat areas of the Kushiara trough, which I showed you before, with the strong subsidence of the upper marine shales, the UMS shales in the Kushiara trough. They are here in this trough down to what I said already, more than 5,000 meters. In other places, they come up to the surface, which was the Hari River. Okay, can I see the next slide, please? Yeah, this is a colleague from the Geophysical Institute in Göttingen, and she's the operator gewesen of taking cores for the paleomagnetic measurements. And these cores were investigated in his labs in Germany, and they gave a very astonishing and interesting result that the UMS will have an age around 3.5 million years, which is the uppermost Pliocene. And traditionally, the UMS are dated according to the traditional stratigraphic ages to the end of the Miocene, which is a great distance in between these two informations, of course. Okay, can I see the next slide, please? Yeah, and now we change the topic again and have a quicker look on the evaluation of drilling results with respect to the important reflector R1. And it is still, how shall I say, it is still a point of discussion and dispute about the stratigraphic age of these reflectors. And the only one who challenged this traditional age was me, with results from when I started this interpretation. The first indication was the Singra well, where I got doubts for the traditional regulation, and later on I got a big support from West Bengal, and especially from this well here. So until now, we have this dispute, and we will step into this dispute right now as well. But you can think always about 6 wells, not only one well which is disputed, other wells are also disputed, and including another well which is here shown as GDH 31, and we'll come back to this one again. Okay, the next slide, please. Yes, here we are. At this point, I have to say that we set up our German Geological Advisory Group, which was by a contract between the German government and my home institute, the Federal Institute for Geosciences and Natural Resources in Hanover, Germany, that Dr. Karl Ulrich Reimann, he was also a very important member in this section, and he is a specialist in palynology, and he had according to the contract, he was working on the palynology data of core samples, of cutting samples, and mainly also from traverses for many, many months, which we worked in the beginning, right in the beginning when we came in the Chittagong Hill tracts. And he collected a huge wealth of pollen data, and he applied these informations from the pollen later on in the well profiles. And this was the reason why different opinions about the stratigraphic age turned up, which we tried to sort out. A little bit is written here. I don't read it right now. Can you read it? I think, yeah. Okay. And here now we turn our attention to the well section of Singra, which is in the upper part of the line PK1 in the shelf area. And if I could go back to the overview on this, all the Prakla lines, you remember the red point on one of these sections there. The red point was Singra. Okay, and the seismic information was very differentiated. The well touched down to TD in the Gondwana sediments. And then this is a Cretaceous reflector, the green one here, the first transgression of the Cretaceous Sea across the Gondwana basement. And then we have here, this might be too small, the other parts of the sedimentary deposition, which is in the lower part, the Paleocene formation, and the green, or should be blue-green, which is the Eocene limestone. This is always a very good marker as long as he is situated in the more flat areas, not so deep areas of the shallow shelf, and more to the more upwards. We get here with the line number 5, the top of the Oligocene, and the number 4 is the top of the lower Miocene. And finally, we get the Reflector 3. Up to here, all the sediments have been palynologically been interpreted by Dr. Reimann, and he gave them different pollen zones. But then the Reflector 3, coincidentally, his Reflector 3, which he called top of middle Miocene, was also at the same time the reflector which I called R3. And when I saw this reflector, I said, oh, what's happened here? It looks like a valley and small hills, as if an erosion had taken place at a certain time here. And this topic is still exciting for me today because it's so much debated. Anyway, debate must be, otherwise we don't have any progress. Okay, and the yellow part here should show the major different opinions. Here on that side with the yellow color, you might read Leeds and Kabir. When I showed you the CPEX paper in the beginning, that's me and Jahangir. And we, or I ordered, both of us, we talked a lot of the stratigraphic age. And finally, we were keen enough to call this section here Pliocene, Pleistocene. And this is the marker R3. And here with the green color, I included the opinion of my colleague Uli Reimann. And he came to the conclusion that this section above the R3 is upper Miocene and with a thickness of 1060 meters. And he was himself very much surprised when he realized that this is a very thick sequence of upper Miocene. But we tried to explain the upper sequence, that this, to the experts, well-known Bogra fault, which has acted maybe even in the very young times, but you can see the displacement which the Bogra fault made with regard to the age of these reflectors. You see the Cretaceous is not much moved down. The Eocene limestone reflector moved also only a little piece down, about 200 milliseconds only, which is maybe 100 or 100 beta, not much more. And the others, they are more or less mapped here as crossing the Bogra fault without any movement, but maybe this is in the interpretation not possible because it's too small to realize a strong reflector movement at this part. Anyway, it's not a very big reflector, but, and this is a problem now, that Dr. Reimann measured the section which he called Upper Miocene. The upper part shows no reflectors because this is related to the dimension of the geophone spread, and which is a little bit invisible here, the uppermost part. But in my belief, they gave the 240 meter, which Mr. Reimann measured for the Upper Miocene, might be here in between this area or in this reach down. It's not a very very big measured section. But for the Upper Miocene, he counted to 1,060 meter. They were deposited due to a major move in the younger areas for the filling up of the so-called Bogra Graben. I have sometimes problems to see on the PK1 line a real graben structure, but this one is established, the Bogra fault, but not a real, what we understand under a graben. And this is now, this has to be discussed in more detail and in more extension. How is it possible that a graben which moved down, maybe not very much, altogether maybe 200 milliseconds only, how can he move? How can he take up 1,060 meter of Upper Miocene sediments? This is still for me a very big question mark. One of these question marks which I mentioned between facts and question marks. Okay, maybe we go back quickly to the next slide. Yes, I make it maybe a little bit too much in detail, but now there's support from the West Bengali side by the Jahangir well. Here the R3 reflector is marked with the thick red color. The seismic section was provided for us by ONGC colleagues from Kolkata. And this shows a very similar display like the well section which I showed you one slide earlier. The R3 reflector is here the blue one, which is, no, this is the Eocene, sorry. This is here the Pliocene, Miocene, this is the red one. I was a little bit confused, I excuse myself. This is the R3 reflector here, a little bit displaced only, and then more or less horizontal running. This is comparable with the Bogra fault. Jahangir well is very close to the Singro well, so there's no wonder that the West Bengal classification is not very much different to the Bangladesh to the Bangladesh classification at the Singro well in the west, and in this case, or north. Okay, this is Bengal well, yes. This was, for me, it was a confirmation. Okay, then the next, please. And this is a kind of curiosity, because the well which was drilled in the north of these wells, altogether these are the 6 wells which I showed you, which in my opinion have the same specific reflector R3. And this well, which was drilled for mineral resources north of the Kuchma Bogra area at the foot of the Rangpur saddle, and this is now interesting because Dr. Reimann, he was the interpreter in palynology of this section, and he came up with this geological profile. This question mark unconformity here was added from me because he also talks in his book about this profile, and he confirmed also a gap between the Miocene and the Pliocene, but he explained that this is not, it must be, of course, a major unconformity, but he always mentioned a very special Gaibanda facies for the sediments here at the feet of the Rangpur Saddle. He explains a little bit in his book also this one, but to me it's also an unconformity which is in congruity with all these other 5 words shown here and indicates a very major stratigraphic break or erosional event in the at the boundary time between the Miocene and the Pliocene, which is more conclusive to me at this place. Okay, next one, please. And this is, if you take a lot of drilled holes into one line, you can see that you hear from the West Bangladesh side, from the shelf area to the northeast side of Bangladesh, to the northeasternmost corner of the Soma Basin, you have a geological profile which goes along the shelf area, the former shelf area, along to the northeast, and at the Soma Basin area. Here it's leaving the western part, and then it's entering with the Fenchuganj well, a very deep geological profile, and finally uplifted again here the Atgram well, which is in the northeasternmost part of the Soma Basin. And you can see, if you turn your focus of the R3 event, which was called by ODA support working group, a British working group with Mr. Who was his name? Doesn't matter now. He called the same one R11, but he followed Raimann's interpretation with Upper Miocene, because Reimann did also his work before the ODA group came into the country. So you can see how a certain horizon, which is comparable with the R3, is nowadays very much differently in regard to the uplifted movements. And it turns out that the R3, most likely according to the palynology results here, that the formerly were enclosed into one flat area into a shelf area, and after the R3 movement, they came into a very strong subsidence area here in the heart of the Soma Basin, and in the western area, in the shelf area, it's not so much. But this goes all together if you take the information to a different picture than the traditional picture was. Okay, the next one, please. Beenden, ne? Next slide, yeah. Okay, this is, I make it very quickly only because the time is running shorter and shorter. I wanted to say something on the assessment of structural processes in the nearby Brahmaputra river basin, which is very close to the Brahmaputra, where it turns around the Shillong Plateau. This is the area. Here, the Shillong Plateau is a little bit more to the left. And then we are already in the Soma Basin in Bangladesh, because the tectonic movements in the Brahmaputra Basin, they are closely related also, I guess, to tectonic movements in the Bangladesh closely neighbored areas as well. Okay, go ahead, then we get to the point. Next, please. So these are two sections which were crossing the Brahmaputra river basin in north-south direction. Shall I close down? Was this information for me, which I just heard? No. Okay, you can see very different.
Continue, Jürgen, please.
Peter, I didn't hear. Please say it again.
No, you can continue. No problem, please.
Okay. You can see two cross sections from northwest to southeast, and another one which is more to the northeast, and this one is more to the northwest. And the cross section shows that at this time, when this sedimentary section was eroded from the Himalayas and brought into the down to the south into the seas of the Eocene and up to the top of the Pliocene and Pleistocene, let's say to the Pleistocene also. The sedimentation direction was generally from the north to the northwest. Here the distances between the two between the different sections, geological sections here, this is very small. So here was no much area to spread out to the south. And the more you get to the south, the distances between the different stratigraphic markers become bigger and bigger. So it clearly documents, before the uplift came, documentation direction was from northwest to southeast. And a section a little bit further down from the source, from the first section down to the Mikir Hills and down to the Shillong Plateau, there's a complete reverse of the sedimentation direction. Now, the sediments which are very close together, the stratigraphic markers which are very close together here, they are very widely spread out here to the northwest, which is a direct reverse sedimentation pattern, even a very strong one here. This is in context with the middle Brahmaputra river basin uplift here, which is not shown here because of no good possibility to connect across the uplifted area to do a section there. And in this one I give you because you might cannot read it here. This is blue is the Eocene limestone. This is Kopili. Then up from red to green is Oligocene. And then what they call Tipam and Girujan, and a small, only a very small sequence of what they call Namzang section. With all these younger sedimentary sections, there is one problem. There is no reliable age data so far. Even the palynology cannot give a very precise data there because these plants and algae and all other water fawns where they lived, which lived there in these younger sediments, they are not precisely datable to a certain time in the past. They have a wider range and very much dependent on the respective sedimentary environment, whether it's close to a delta, whether it's a sweetwater environment, and so on. But anyway, these younger sediments, Pliocene and Pliocene here, maybe already partly also Pleistocene, they have to be taken also with some care. If they have specific age already assigned. But anyway, they are rather young. And then when the big uplift came here together, the whole sequence pattern turned to the north, so that you can calculate a 4 deep area or 4 bulge area here with regard to the Himalayas, that there a major subsidence occurred, and the sediments which were formerly gone to the sea became uplifted and went their way back to the Himalayas. Maybe they lived there more comfortable than towards the south. Okay, Dr. Azad, does this reflector ever correct? Okay, can we discuss these questions later? What do you think?
Yes, yes.
Okay, then we go ahead.
Go ahead.
So this is now the last, the last slide on which we focus, and I just wanted, if it's possible, in 2-3 minutes. Below here, you see a section which was created by Curry and Moore, these two famous American geologists who were very deeply involved into the Bengal depositional system from rift to orogeny. They wrote beautiful papers. But this one shows one thing very, very nicely. You have here a cross section from north to south, from the northernmost part of the West Bengal, Bangladesh area here, where the crystalline basement or basaltic basement is already at the surface or close to the surface. And the green one is a certain a pre-Eocene rock section, which is still not yet more in detail known, the context, but it can be read from geophysical data. And the yellow section shows a huge depression here in front of the West Bengal basement, which is closely shown here. A post-Paleocene, this is already a sedimentary section, which has a huge depth here down to 16,000 meter depth, which is in context also with the depths which I showed you for the Eocene coming from the Bengal Shelf area. Okay, and this section was completed by me with a big question mark. It was completed because here are shown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wells which have been interpreted with their total depth area, with their total depth most likely by these gentlemen down here. And the blue one here appears to be could be, this is my guess, could be, if you continue this one, the yellow section, can you continue with the Bangladeshi or geological group R5 reflector with the R3 reflector, which is the boundary Miocene and the my-feeling Pliocene, and the R1 reflector, which could be the Pliocene Pleistocene border, according to my interpretation. And this is, I just wanted to show you, keep it in your mind and try to work on these question marks.
Yes.
Could you please show the last picture, which gives you an impression from the landing place of the well site Biani Bazar when it was drilled in the early 81s. This was a huge operation. It was our first operation under the German Bangladeshi project, Petro-Bangla project. And the next slide, this is a very a very interesting story here. Yeah. We could talk about hours and hours. And this was, many visitors came from the offices and administration from Dhaka and visited the well site, and we and the specialists here explained your officers and directors and so on, what's going on this well site. And the next one, the last one, this is a picture from very early years, between, let's say, 77, to 82, when we published our paper. These two people here are the guys, Jahangir Kabir and me, in 82, yes. And here is a very close friend to us, who greatly gave us support in the first beginning to set up offices, to set up from the floor, to set up everything there. But very heartful man, Maruf Khan. And he went with us to the deepest parts of the jungle. When we left the jungle, this photo was taken, Chittagong Hill Tracks. And so I say, Shunda, Bangladesh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your attention. Shunda, Bangladesh. This was a test for me as well.
Thank you, Dr. Liz, for your good presentation. I think this will help us in exploration and establishing the stratigraphy. Yet so many question marks establishing the stratigraphy of Bangladesh. I think we can get some answer from your presentation. I think a lot of works have to be done yet, and also going on. Our young explorers are also doing some work in seismic, in field geology, in other sectors. Now I request Mr. Professor Dr. Badrul Imam, our guest speaker. I think everyone knows him, and if I will get opportunity to, I think again, to his sorry, his curriculum vitae. Yes, Professor of Geology. He is retired now, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. After graduating from Dhaka University, he obtained MSc and PhD from Imperial College, London University. In addition to teaching at Dhaka University, he also taught at King Fahad University, Saudi Arabia, and University of Regina, Canada. He closely collaborates with BAPEX, Petrobangla, and other national energy organizations on various issues of national interest. He wrote several books of petroleum and energy resources of Bangladesh. His PhD research 1972 to 1982 at London University. He was on diagnosis of reservoir rocks and sealing shales of gas fields of Bangladesh. A follow-up postdoctorate research was done on reservoir quality evaluation in Bangladesh gas field in the same institution. A second doctoral duty for Occidental Oil Company on Claymore oil field was done at Aberdeen University, Scotland. Now I request Mr. Badrul Imam, please, for your presentation.
Thank you, Jasim. I will try to be brief because I know there are many people who will be asking questions to Dr. Leach for his excellent presentation. Now, first of all, I like to thank Dr. Leach for his excellent I would say, groundbreaking presentation, because what he has shown in his presentation is some very fundamental problems of Bangladesh stratigraphy. Now, we know that in Bangladesh stratigraphy, we are little, what would I say, little very, based on very old-fashioned, obsolete ideas, still prevailing in the stratigraphic domain. That starts in 1932 with Evans, and what Evans did in 1932 for Assam, that has been dragged down to Bangladesh, and that has not been changed. But that is the most important challenge, how to update this thing. It is so obsolete. The Evans classification doesn't really fit into a modern classification scheme. But what we are practicing in Bangladesh is just the replica of Evans classification. Now, the most important and groundbreaking aspect of Dr. Lee's work, as he just explained, is some fundamental questions, fundamental debates that he opened up. Actually, he opened up this debate not now, not today. Actually, he did it as back as 1982. When he read a paper with Jahangir Kabir in CPEC conference, and whose abstract was shown in his presentation. What essentially he wanted to say, and is still promoting this thought, his idea, that the age of the formations that we are practicing is much younger than being practiced. For example, he has shown two very prominent reflector R1, which is equivalent to upper marine shale, and reflector R3. Now, interestingly, this reflector R3, that is, according to Dr. Lee's, is the top of Miocene. Now, if that is so, R3 reflector occurs at a depth of 5,000 meters or more in the deeper part of the Bengal Basin, like in the offshore and in Suma Basin and Hatia Trough. What does it mean? It means that if R3 is at a depth of 5,000 meters or more than that, and if it is the uppermost Miocene, then it is translated into the fact that none of the well has drilled into Miocene, that all the wells drilled in Bangladesh in the deeper part of the basin, in Surma Basin, in Hatia Trough, in middle Bengal 4D, terminates in Pliocene. That is translated to this fact that what we call Bhuban and Bokabil, they are all Pliocene and Pleistocene. That is the most challenging thing in this whole topic, the stratigraphy of Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And if I'm right, Dr. Leeds.
Yes.
Okay, so this challenge is so big and so surprising that how could we continue to take 1932 age dating of Evans, which was very crude or very ill-equipped paleontologically. Still, we are saying that Bhuban, for example, is lower Miocene, Bokabil is upper Miocene. Now, that age designation is totally wrong as per Dr. Leach, and he has shown by the seismic correlations with West Bengal wells and West Bengal seismic sections that R3 reflection, which occurring at a depth of 5,000 meters or more than that, it is just top of the Miocene. So this is such an important thing. If that is true, I'm saying if that is true, because Dr. Lees still said that it is being debated, and it has not been. conclusively solved yet. So the challenge of stratigraphy of Bangladesh, those people who are working in stratigraphy and in oil industry is huge. To turn the table something like upside down, because if it is one thing to say Bhuban is lower Basin and totally different thing if we say, well, Bhuban is placid. It's in one sense a little embarrassing for everybody, because the Bhuban, lower Basin Bhuban is embedded in our head in such a manner that we really don't think otherwise. Now, the most credited part of Dr. Leach is that he bring these things pointedly up into us. And he has been preaching this. If I'm not wrong, Dr. Leach, you remember that email you sent to me in 1916, probably, late September 1916, saying that you mentioned in your email that you have problems with Bangladesh stratigraphy, for which you never stopped thinking of Bangladesh for a long time, even after 40 years after you left Bangladesh. And that when I read that email, I was really, really surprised that you wanted to make a group of geologists from Bangladesh who take up this challenge and continue the work. And at that time, I was in Canada, and I said to you that, okay, when I get back to Bangladesh, I will form a group, and eventually form this group, which is called BSSR, Bangladesh, BSSG, Bangladesh Stratigraphic Study Group, and under which you have been working with a good number of Bangladeshi geologists, and still working. And from your presentation today, we understand that this problem has some way to go still now. It's not yet solved. But it is a major, major problem. Unless we solve this problem, the stratigraphy remains fragile. It's not really solid. So in that respect, I think today's presentation will open up a new area of invitation, I would say, to all the geologists of Bangladesh who are working in different fields. Somebody is working in oil industry, somebody in mineral industry, but fundamental to all is the stratigraphy. So if it is not correctly set, nothing will be accurate. So with this word, with these words, I pay my respect to Dr. Leach for bringing these things up for so long a time. And this BSSG, this group, continues to work. Most of the work is being done by email and remote communications. And we think we have still a good way to move. Some of the geologists from Bangladesh has, in the meantime, has learned a lot, and their opinion, when exchanged with Dr. Leach's idea, has formed a very good foundation, I would say, to a breaking point. And I think eventually this will get into a solution, and the debate will end. And either way, it will come down to settle down to a good formation. Now, with this, I have said what Dr. Leach was actually essentially trying to say. And lastly, I would like to point out some of the stratigraphic weakness in our field geology, because Bangladesh, a major part of Bangladesh is covered with alluvial. You don't have, rock exposures. So seismic stratigraphy is the main basis of your work. But you have this eastern folded belt where you have these exposures, and I would like to end my discussion by throwing some light on the exposed part of the sequence in Chittagong Hill Tracts in Sylhet area. Now here again, the same problems we have, that what we are following in the field geology is just a replica of Evans 1932, without giving any updated thoughts on it. For example, if you think this sequence as a delta, then we know that delta sequences are always changing its phases. So it is very unwise to bring one formations in Assam, like Bhuban, and take it down to southern Bangladesh, assuming that the lithology remains the same. So what we say Bhuban in Chittagong Hill Tracts is not at all the same what is there in the Assam. This thing has been shown by some of the very interesting papers, like I do not have slide to show you now, because I have to go to screen share, which I don't want to go at present. But if you look at the publication that has already been done recently, one of them on Sitakund, a person called Davis, he probably worked on Sitakund for his research, and he's shown that what the section has in Sitakund is totally different from what the section is in Assam. Like in Assam, Bhuban is described as more arenaceous, and Bokabil is more argillaceous. That is what we all know. But looking at the section, a detailed section, you see that in Sitakung, the lower part is arenaceous, and the lower part is argillaceous, and upper part is arenaceous. It is just totally opposite than what you have in Assam. And also there is other research work, like there is another one which is Ghani and Alam in 2003. This work is even more exclusive. They have shown that Sita Paharan decline and Matamuhri decline, they have shown the same thing, that you have a section where it is argillaceous, shale rich in the lower part, and the upper part is sand rich. So in fact, Bhuban is shale rich, and Bokabil, you have more sands. This is quite opposite what you find in Assam in Evans 32. So disregarding all these things, what we are doing in Bangladesh is just copying Evans 32 blindly. And this is absolutely wrong. So two aspects of stratigraphy, essentially. One is space and one is time. In both counts, Bangladesh stratigraphy is standing in wrong footing. What Dr. Lees is trying to say or demonstrate is that this age has to be corrected, and meaning that there has to be a major change in the age designations, meaning that what we call Bhuban as Lower Miocene, it is Pliocene or even Pleistocene. So this is radically different. And today's meeting, I think, should open up this box to all the geologists. Until now, a group of geoscientists from Bangladesh and Dr. Lees has been dealing with these things, the very important things. Today's lecture, I think, opened this up to all the geologists to think about the status of stratigraphy of Bangladesh, that it is based or it is standing on a wrong ideas. It has to be changed on both counts, age-wise and lithology-wise, in the lithostratigraphic-wise. With this, first, I would like to thank you again, and especially Dr. Lees, to open up these very important issues. And I look forward to listen to other people's comments. Thank you very much.
I thank you. I thank you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before going to, sorry, Jashim, before going to normal question and answer sessions, I had a feeling at my 67 years age, I will request University of Dhaka, Geology, Dhaka University, Geology, Rajshahi University, and Jahangir University, plus Geological Survey. They are the main research group to establish the geology of Bangladesh. Petrobangla can provide the logs and data. So I feel little sorry to say that our Geological Survey of Bangladesh, University of Dhaka, Geology of Rajshahi University and Jahangir University, the teachers, the researchers should take initiative to establish the stratigraphy of Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nazim. Dr. Liz, could you open the chat box? There are a lot of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. And please open the chat box. And there are, I think, 5 or 6 questions from different scientists. You can
Yes.
answer one by one, please.
No.
Yes, Basin.
No. So I start from the beginning.
Yeah. Mr. Shams Bashir.
Mohammed Kumul Hassan, Department of Geology.
Okay, your option.
I'm just reading a little bit first. All these years, it is really unfortunate to see that nothing has changed in terms of updating. Okay, I agree, yeah. Has R3, one is shown as MA. Who is MA? Doesn't matter. Okay, has R3 got anything to do with overpressured sequences in Soma Basin and adjacent areas to the south? No. Can I answer on this question?
Sure.
Yes, I was asked whether R3 has anything to do with overpressured sequences in the Soma Basin and adjacent areas to the south. If I answer on this question, I should say that overpressure should not have any influence or does not stand in connection with R3. If my opinion is correct, R3 should be too deep in the Bengal Basin. You cannot find him in the depths which were drilled up to today. And the overpressure, I think, is more an indicator of rapid basin subsidence and rapid basin fill, that the basin appears still rather immature, which is also confirmed by very low or just touching the oil window in the very deep wells like Fenchuganj number 2. At about 5,000 meters, Fenchuganj 2 just reaches the uppermost part of the oil window. That indicates that most of the gas which is produced there is a very, very high mature gas, which we already discovered by isotope investigations in the very early beginning of our project work in Bangladesh. So R3 and overpressure in the basin itself, I don't think so. And the overpressure zone is originated, I think, by very young organic material and rapid subsidence and rapid sediment infill into the basin, so that this has not been really compacted properly or long time properly, and the sediment layers which are clay rich, that they support the pressure increase, but not as a long-term process of compaction. Rapid basin subsidence, I think, started in the Pliocene, in the beginning of the Pliocene, and continuing up to the measured upper Pliocene R1, or the OMS reflector. It's all, I don't know, it's all very young stuff. If you find forams or nanoplankton from the Miocene, this is not an indicator for Miocene age, because the basin is full of reworked animals or microanimals. And what I realized, I got many information by my own procedure, which I started very early when I came to the project with Warhol Research. Warhol Research was the company in Great Britain who did all the paleontological, micropaleontological work on your wells, which were existing at this time. And I had many exchange of information with Mr. Oman Warhol, I think. And this was not very conclusive, because sometimes there was also a reworked, he agreed to some reworked forams also, but in situ forams or in other microfossils, they are very, very extremely seldom or never really to find there. The concentration of high-level forams or high-level nanoplankton, you have always to be careful, very careful, even if the numbers, especially if the numbers are very low, that this is an original in situ fossil, nanospecies of certain foram species. And I talked on this issue especially with one of the greatest, let's say, German nanoplankton specialist, Professor Erland Martini. He is a German, and he was a professor at Frankfurt, Germany University. And we met once and we talked through all these fossil stuff. And he was more than reluctant to agree, yeah, this is completely sure Miocene, or this is completely sure Eocene or so. This is much reworked. And these reworked sediments, they came from the west, from the north, and especially also from the east, with the uplift of the Indo-Burman ranges, and even in Tripura, the uplift is going on now still, and in Bangladesh as well, uplift is coming in the Kamta structure. This may be the youngest uplift, and one special day, if we are not anymore on Earth, there will be a mountain coming up and close to the what is it, downtown, down the hinge. The hinge will be a kind of strong resistance giving to the uplift of the seesaw. Yeah. No, it's a very diplomatic. It's a very difficult issue to work on fossil biology and to assign them a specific age. This is also with only in broad intervals you may find this. Palynology is always also very strong environment related. If you have a big lake close to the sea, you get a mixed differences on palynology samples. On the other side, if you find good examples, which are very rare and specific for only a certain environment, then you can make use of it much better. But reworking in the largest reworking is a phenomena, long-standing phenomena in such big deltas like Ganges Brahmaputra delta. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. There are a few more questions. First one was from Mr. Shams Basir. He was I think, scientist work in various oil companies in Petrobangla also. I think you see the Shams Basir.
I didn't get all what you said.
Oh yes, I can. I can read out. Shams Basir.
Shall I go into the chat quadrangle here?
Yeah. You can go first at 9:10 p.m. Mr. Shams Basir wrote, "Perhaps it is my own weakness. I feel more confident to have the borehole logs placed along the well bore. Is there any reason they were not used?"
What does he mean? Logs information? I should show or talk about logs content? Borehole logging?
I request Mr. Shams Basir, please.
Shamsuddin, I know him.
You know him? Okay, please.
Yeah. I think he was at the beginning, he was in the study group, PSG.
No, he is not that Shamsuddin. He is Shams Bashir from USA. Exactly, he is asking why you don't put the log data with the wellbore data, Parline log data in your graphs you showed.
Well, I never got in my hands borehole wireline loggings or logs. I only heard that these areas where the R3 was drilled or penetrated, there was logging was not possible because the sediments which were reached there before they hit the hardened and very compact section, which is middle Miocene below, the younger sediments on top after the break, they were very loose and sticky and clay, so that there no good log was taken anyway. This was especially at Singra the case. The whole part where the transition is between the middle Miocene and the lower Pliocene, this is a very uncomfortable sedimentation environment there. Clay, sticky, especially the wells which were logged by Stanwag in the 60s when they drilled Hasipur, Kuchma and Boga. They faced the same problem. They penetrated very soft sediments, clay, sticky, and suddenly they hit the very strongly hardened middle Miocene. And Kadri, G.A. Kadri, you always write this was a very remarkable seismic reflector. That after penetrating rather soft sedimentary sequences, hitting then the hardened sediments after the below the stratigraphic break. But this indicates for me sometimes that there is a real unconformity or a stratigraphic break. And what I don't like, actually, this was after I left Bangladesh, the German group, they cared for well stratigraphic charts. I don't know whether you ever saw them. A thick package of all wells in Bangladesh, showing the well profile and all paleontological and stratigraphic information in one chart. This were handed over to Petrobangla after the whole team left. Do you know these charts?
Yeah. Yeah, this I was handling these two, and actually these are the real one-page chart with all the data together
From the German team.
from the German team. Yeah.
Yeah, you must be careful. And I really don't like it. When I saw these charts, they carried the traditional classification of Buba and Bocaville, all what was done in the early years of Mr. Evans. These age designations, they carried it to these charts, so that you see a chart for the singular well with lower Buban, upper Buban, Dupitila, and so on. I was very angry when I saw it. I had left Bangladesh already at this time, but I can't change it now. But if you have these graphs, they are interesting to read. You should try to get it for the study group.
May I speak?
No, you can fold them. One graph has maybe such a kind of paper. Sometimes you can fold it. Some are maybe a meter long, but nicely folded. They must be somewhere in your libraries or wherever you keep these information from former groups who worked here, like World Bank report or the ODA reports or Robertson research. You might find it under these headlines. German Petrobangla.
Dr.
Okay.
Liz,
Yes.
Mr. Shams Bashir like to tell something.
Yes.
Now I request Mr. Aziz to open the chat box who would like to speak. I think all the participants in chat box, you may open them.
Yeah, I opened now.
Please,
And where?
Mr.
What was his name? Or is he talking to me?
Oh, that's Shams Bashir.
Sorry?
Shams Bashir. You forgot me. You know, I talked to you when you're in, the TSC, and I left for Los Angeles. I was as a geophysicist with ARCO.
With
You look
Mr.
different
Eickhoff?
now.
With Mr. Eickhoff?
No. I was independent with an oil company, ARCO,
Okay.
Atlantic Richfield.
And when did you talk to me?
1979, 80, sometime that period. You were with Kabir in that
Yes.
13x3 Dhanmandi Road office.
You can see his face on the screen. You may
Oh, it has
remember,
changed a lot. It has changed a lot since then.
I can't remember 40 years what I did, to whom I spoke. But anyway,
Anyway,
it's nice.
my question
Yes.
was, for us in the industry, these nuclear and electromagnetic and sonic logs are one of the backbone of correlating, because it gives you so much more information about lithology, the type of rock, everything. So, and it should somehow relate to the surfaces, the seismic surfaces. And my question, why was not that used at all in all your panels?
Yeah, but we had not access to every instrument or any documentation within Petrobangla at this time. It was
Dr.
quite
Jürgen,
yeah.
Dr. Lee, not even one?
Well, I don't know. In the beginning, it was, let's say, not so easy.
We had access.
It was not so strong restricted, because Mr. Ashfaq Khan, you know him certainly.
Yeah, I remember him. Yes.
He was a geologist by himself, and he had a very, very high interest that we get everything what we wanted to have. But we had first to organize ourselves. And but he supported us very much, but we had not so much knowledge at this time what is available. We were not so much oil people coming to Bangladesh. We were all more or less scientists on a specific field, and we learned much in Bangladesh, but we had not at this time the chance to look into these logs, but we can't get it, make return now.
You know, we had logs from the
Yeah.
1940s, very, very, very crude, but we could use it. And like Atlantic, Richfield, and Shell, they were always not very friendly. And even then, we had access to their data and they had ours. So
Yeah,
Germany, yeah.
I had also very good experience when I was interested in getting the fossil data from Mr. Warhol from the Research Institute for Micro Fossils in London. I was informed there is no chance for you to that you get it. You must ask the chairman of
Petrobangla.
No, not Petrobangla. I must ask the chairman. The data were under the they were holded by Cairn and by Shell. So I wrote a mail to the president or the responsible man for this kind of information, and I wrote to the company head, and I always got very, very nice and friendly answers.
Refusals, yeah.
To make use of this one, and finally, people even from Santos, they gave me as follower from Cairn or from Shell, they gave me this data, and I went through a big pile of information on the micropaleontology in the Bengal Basin. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Shams Bashir. Now I request Mr. Azad, Abul Kalam Azad, Geological Manager of Chris Energy. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, Marine.
Dr. Azad.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Lees, can you hear me?
First,
and everybody?
Azad, introduce yourself first.
Yes. Have you written here the more we were drilling, the more drilling wells, issues with dispute are coming.
No, this is not my question. I can direct my questions since I have unmuted. I was unmuted. I'm Dr. Abdus Samad Azad, working in Chris Energy. It's former Tallo Bangladesh Limited. I'm working there as a geological manager. So I did do some sort of compilation of all the seismic stratigraphic surfaces which has been done in the previous studies. My question was, if these seismic reflectors have ever been correlated with the work that has done by core laboratories in 90s.
You mean a specific reflector?
Yes,
R3 reflectors or all reflectors?
All reflectors, but I looked at your presentation and then I understand that R3, the one that you are representing, has been denoted probably as R11 in core laboratories report. Have you ever looked into that?
Yeah, the R3 is also mentioned in the British group, which was here under, I just forgot the name of the group leader from ODA. They made a seismic exploration a little bit west of the Ganges, in the upper part, close to the West Bengal border. The ODA people, they called a reflector R11.
Yeah, it is the same reflector that has been mapped by core laboratories, I guess, because I can send you the work that I did before, and I found that the R3 that you are mentioning is probably the R11, which is actually mapped by core laboratories.
Oil industry.
In the oil industry, yes. And that was a work done for BAPEX. It was in 90s, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, this is possible. My
And
memory
as
is
you said, it has some sort of correlation with Jalangi well. That is the top of the Debogram. It is the same thing that I also mapped in my compilation work.
yeah, because I was always many people or many geologists, not many geologists, some specific geologists, they always warned me to make use of West Bengal from the Jalangi well, the information which was given to me, so that I could correlate the reflector R3 with their reflector in the Jalangi well, because both wells are more or less close together. This was no problem. In the beginning, it was a problem when they shot the PK1 line and the PK1 extension. Then we had information along the big regional profile. But all the other lines, which I showed you in the updated Pakla seismic grid from the shelf and from the Soma Basin, I could use this, let's say, Germany produced seismic sections, and they are even touching the West Bengal border or crossing the border. And the other side also, if I look at the ODA sections, and Lindsay is also a geologist, a British geologist who made investigations here. He published his information, and he even showed that Lindsay's team, that they crossed the Ganges and there was no problem in connecting both lines, both sides. The Lindsay side connected with West Bengal, and I connected with Jalangi well, and I connected with both, with Lindsay and Jalangi. Even if we went to even if I visited the office of ONGC in Kolkata or in the Vadia Institute in Dehradun, they showed very frankly some seismic lines which were very close to the PK1 line in this area, very close. But I always put a question mark, because I have to be, if I make a statement, I want to be very convinced and very sure. And until now, I am still convinced, but not very sure, because until the recent times now, my stratigraphic classification is also strongly questioned. And maybe we have one day the possibility to exchange the information again and again, but not long term. My years are running down quickly now. And that's why I put a question mark under the title of facts and question marks. This is in my mind now. And it's for me very nice and good to have colleagues with whom I can discuss these issues, and this widens my views. Yeah.
Liz, just to share one thing that came into my mind. The people who are working in the well industry, people like me, and the people from INVAPEX, when we see the log, the conventional UMS that we say, it is easily mappable in the logs, and we do not have actually core sample from UMS. But I can share you my experience while in the drilling field. While drilling this surface, I'm not saying it UMS, but when we are drilling this surface, we saw a lot of highly mineralized, shale sections, which is a bit different, and it has a very sharp gamma ray peak, and that is actually quite easily mappable in many of the gas fields that we drill. I'm sure that my colleagues in BAPEX, they can also come with their suggestion or with their opinion. But this is kind of surface that we could even get it when we are in the drilling field.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
if it is not UMS, but this is a sort of marker reflector that we got, not in the core samples, but in the logs, and people who actually looked during drilling probably does some sort of kind of feeling, you know, that I can share with you. I'm not sure indeed.
That's right. But of course, I would appreciate if from different technical sides, people or geologists who are interested in this issue, that they should take, if they have the opportunity, to try to find out, is this correct what Mr. Leeds was talking to us, or do we have to put it on the side and we see it very differently? That would be very, very loved by me if I can get out of my doubts. But on the other side, as long as doubts occur, I try to think ahead and more and more and more, and with the hope that finally the truth will be there, and we are all happy and can have a nice drink on that. You
Thanks,
understand?
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, I thank you very much. Yes.
Now I request Mr. Khaliz. He is in Canada, Calgary. He has some questions, please. Khaliz,
Yes.
are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I'm also here.
I don't have a question, but I do want to understand the thing better. The figure Mr. Liss showed at the end of that the gravity high and then the Hathia trough. Those things, I think we find those things very nicely in the gravity and magnetic survey interpretation, but in seismics, I didn't see it at all. So I just wanted to say that, like, how we do seismic interpretation or the layer interpretation with the gravity magnetic, it looks like the gravity, like the basement is close to the surface just after the Hathia trough. So, and in some other publication in the Indian side.
You mean in West Bengal, close to the basement?
Yes. Yeah, in West Bengal, they have some interpretation very close to that with gravity and magnetic survey. But when we look to the seismics, the sediment is really thick there. There is no like Borishal Chatpur high like that thing in sedimentary sections. So I don't know, like when we interpret it, do we actually mix it, or how do we justify our interpretation in terms of sedimentology?
Yeah, I have not too much information from West Bengal, close to the onshore area about the basement. But what I could read and in charts and in a accompanying book from Mr. Bishwas, he gave this information on many wells in West Bengal. Maybe you know this well-known book and addendum of the many charts he had from every well in West Bengal at the time of 1961. He published his PhD thesis, very comprehensive, big adventure. And when I saw this cross section from Mr. Curry and Moore, I was also impressed. He didn't make these colored lines, which I added for the Bangladesh or West Bengal geologists, but it's not impossible what I put there with the interrupted lines, because this is just let's say 20,000 kilometer steps for the Eocene limestone reflector, which I showed in the beginning of my speech. You can trace on the Prakla seismic lines, especially PK1 extension. And PK1, of course, is close to the surface, the limestone reflector. You can trace the limestone reflector down to about 7-8 seconds two-way time. And in the slide which I showed from Curry and Moore, the post-Eocene boundary between the crust below and the basement even deeper was also close to 15, 18,000 meter, or maybe even more, 20,000. I have to go back to that slide. But we could, I could imagine that the subsidence is still going on, like the subsidence in the northeast, where the continental plate is moving stronger and stronger and more up, keeping uprising the sedimentary sequences on top. In the northeasternmost corner, that the Shillong Plateau is considered by many scientists as a very young uplift in Pleistocene time, when the Tsangpo River, just south of the Tibet Plateau and south of the Tibet Plateau, the Brahmaputra is called the Tsangpo. Then the Tsangpo is a difficult name. He crossed the eastern Himalayas, the Narve Pancha Massif, and crossed this section and turned down to the Brahmaputra Basin. It's a very young event when this happened. The Irrawaddy, which the former Brahmaputra or Tsangpo, he was not getting down to the Brahmaputra Basin before, let's say, Pliocene, Pleistocene. Only then he succeeded in going down and crossing the eastern Himalaya down to the Brahmaputra Basin. Before that time, he was connected, I think, with the Red River system, to whom belongs also the Irrawaddy. He was, one branch of the former Brahmaputra was flowing down to the Irrawaddy Basin, and other branches turned down to the Red River Basin, crossing into China territory. It's a very highly interesting part of how tectonic structures and uplift and downlift very quickly change, for geologists, very quickly change their courses and enter new territories where they start going on up to be uplifted and downlifted and uplifted and downlifted. For me, it was also very important not only to look on the little place, sorry for the name, little place Bangladesh, but also to see the surrounding areas. That's why I tried to include quickly the Brahmaputra Basin, because this widens the view, and sometimes a flash hits you. Oh, that could be possible, that something happened with this river system and this turned down. And is this river system now, is this a Tipam, what the Bangladeshi call Tipam, or is it the Tipam which was brought down with the change of the relief in the Brahmaputra Basin, and so on. So one question mark after the other question marks, and very naturally one fact after one fact, sorry, and then naturally one question mark after one question mark. But this keeps me young, and I'm always thinking in that direction, and then I get all my books and papers and documents, and the flat looks like a like a waste disposal on technical documents. Okay, but I support your idea. Yeah, maybe some more.
No, thank you very much. You made it really clear.
We are already 2 hours and 15 minutes. Dr. Liz, are you in position to, I think, give the answer?
I can answer?
No, yes, I'm asking you because we spent a lot of time and
yes, no.
Also, your age permit you to, I think, go further ahead.
No, I will be available, but I dare to speak longer because you get more or less tired, or this is fully understandable. No,
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Please.
I think you can answer. I think concisely. That's why we can cover that time.
Dr. Dr. Nasser Azaz wants to have a question. Please.
Yeah. No. There are, I think. Okay. Then Mr. Khalid Ahmed Khan, he's waiting for a long while.
Yeah, no, that's fully understandable, and I feel a little bit not good to keep you so long, but you know, it's for me a possibility to speak out what is on my mind. I shouldn't do this, but the more I have spoken, maybe some more light came into the whole problem, and this is also already enough.
No,
So
we have
that
no problem, Dr. Liz. We are thinking about you. You may be tired, I think.
No, I'm not tired at all. I am full.
Okay, thank you. You are very strong man.
full running like a machine. I could sleep the whole night, and you the whole day.
Next question for whom, please?
Dr. Nasser Azaz wants to talk.
Who is it, please?
Okay.
Dr. Nasser Azaz.
Mr. Nasser Azaz, please give your, I think, self-identity.
Unmute yourself.
Yes. Oh, I didn't understand. You want to introduce yourself?
No.
Dr. Nasser.
What is your point?
Where is Dr. Nasser? He's not there. He's I can see him.
Okay, next, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Khalid Ahmed Khan, please. Mr. Khalid Ahmed Khan, are you here, please?
Oh, it's too late. I see his question anyway. He asked, in many of our seismic sections, we see a remarkable interval populated with plenty of channel cuts, canyons. Understanding
Ahmed,
of...
please unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you keep
the
chat
box?
box?
Unmute Khalid Ahmed, please.
The mute option is open. Anyone can unmute themselves.
Oh, yeah. Khalid is not here.
Okay. Sorry for the misunderstanding. Go ahead, please.
Nasir Azazul is here, please.
Yes, if I'm allowed to speak, yeah?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lees, for your really nice presentation and all the information. Very brief comment, as I always do. I think we should look for the upper marine shale, if you can find it in the Chittagong Hill Tracts or in Sylhet area, because we need to be able to correlate what we see in the drill holes or in the seismic reflectors, the stratigraphy from there onto the real world exposed stratigraphy in the eastern part of Bangladesh. And therefore, and thereby we'll be able to bring about substantial improvements in an actual knowledge we have about the stratigraphy of Bangladesh, which is not exposed. And that's my comment. And the way we look at the seismic reflectors looks like the stratigraphy has a regional element. For example, the upper marine shale, the limestone formation, those are major reflectors, as you've shown, and as a common knowledge. These are results of marine transgression and regression, and mainly because of marine transgressions, we have these regional stratigraphic units. But between those major reflectors, you have got huge amount of sediments, and those sediments needs to be looked at in a far more detail that we are doing now for significant results in petroleum exploration. And those packages between the major reflectors, we need to look at the exposed sequences and make correlations or inferences based on what we see on the surfaces. And as Professor Dr. Bodrimam has mentioned, he mentioned about the paper by Raihan and Alam, 2003, that has shown some of those stratigraphy in the eastern part of Bangladesh. But just one paper is so grossly inadequate in terms of the information we need. There should be, I'm sure loads and loads of researchers in universities and postgraduate students are doing a large number of research, particularly at MSc levels, looking at these stratigraphic exposed sequences in eastern part of Bangladesh, and looking at the coal logs, looking at the drill hole data. I think under some umbrella, it could be even under the umbrella of this stratigraphic group that Professor Baudrillon was talking about earlier. Someone should take the lead, try and bring together these information so that we understand what the major questions are and how we can bring together the piecemeal informations we have available in various sectors, for example, in the universities and in the industry levels. So to start with, let's start to look for the upper marine shale in exposed sedimentary sequences in Bangladesh. Then see what we have above that upper marine shale exposed, how we can correlate that information with the drill hole information. The way we're doing the fence diagrams, these are grossly oversimplified, in my opinion. And there needs to be a lot more detailed study that needs to fill up the gaps. Thank you very much.
Yes, I thank you also for your encouraging work statements. And I believe this should be done if possible. I know that your time is, whatever you do, sometimes too short to arrange such more long-standing issues, but it should be done. It's very important to get independent time marker especially for the younger sediments, to differentiate them from older sediments. And the one example which we faced or which we saw was paleomagnetic evidence for the upper marine shale in the Hari River. And this should be enforced. You must only be careful. A lot of papers have been written on the age of what is called Miocene or lower Miocene or upper Miocene, based on mineral analysis on strontium isotopes and many other isotopes and fission tracks and so on. You must be aware of that these sandstones or sands and sand grains might be derived from somewhere else, from older sediments, because they are always reworked, and the rivers, they do their best, especially the Brahmaputra, to throw this sandy material coming from Tibet, down from Tibet through the valley to the Bengal Basin. These time markers are not 100% to take 100%. If they say we have a strontium relation of this and that age, and others have it on a different age, it's all right if you can get access to these, but more absolute dating like OSL investigations. The Indians have done it in the Himalayan, in the Ganges basin. They have taken these OSL samples and have detected the age, and came to age data down to 50,000, 100,000, 136,000 of age of these investigated sediments. And this might even be enough to test what we call, or what I call, I have to say, Pleistocene sometimes. And so try to find out age dating methods, whatever you might get, or develop or integrate into your research institutions. Paleomagnetic, and you have many sediments in your country which are hardened enough to take a core, like Mr. Worm from Göttingen University. I showed him in the picture, took a lot of samples from the Hari River, which was assigned as upper marine shale. We shot seismic into the river foot for quite a long time. So what we were shown was certainly from your Bangladeshi colleagues, the upper marine shale. There was no doubt on that one. Okay, please try it again and again to set up a good research technology, and especially for methods which are worthwhile to be tried and worthwhile to be paid, also to pay for it. Even if it's a lab, like in the United States for OSL dating, they make it commercially. I don't know what it might cost, but I think Professor Akhter from Dhaka University, he has very good connections to the Columbia University labs that he might encourage you to collect a sample, which must be for paleomagnetic, must be oriented, so that you get independent results. This might be sometimes very astonishing what comes out, which is what you thought would be very old, but it's very young. Even when we went to the foot of the hill tracks, we were shown Pliocene sediments. There was no paleomagnetic at that time, or even older, late Miocene or something like this. And the sediments, they looked like being born yesterday, with fresh, little bit rotted leaves from trees. And so that I always thought it must be very young. It's not late Miocene. It's even younger. It's from yesterday. So just turn your interest also to these facilities and possibilities and cooperations. Then you might do a very good step forward. And whatever I can do for you, I'm really interested to answer all your questions, and we can integrate even chat groups. I'm highly learning now all this modern technology, so that we can talk. Maybe we can use any time. You take a daytime, I do it in the night, if the age information is shows a too big gap as a time information. Anyway, I will do what I can, and you can ask me whatever you like.
Monoar wants to ask a question. Monoar, go ahead, please.
Now, Monoar, yes. Before that, I think two, one from GSB and another from Mr. Anisur Rahman. Monoar, maybe I think
later.
Concluding. Yeah, I think concluding is he has a lot of experience, vast of experience. He worked in eastern part of Bangladesh. I think there are Marine Akhtar also. I like to, I think, ask Mr. Anisur Rahman. Are you here, please? Mr. Anisur Rahman, GSB, Deputy Director. Unmute, please. Mr. Anis?
He's not here.
Nazim, may I put something forward, Nazim?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You are okay. You can give everybody,
yes,
not tonight or today, whenever you like. But you can announce everybody who is interested to talk to me. They can send me a mail. Give them, please, my email address.
Right.
And then, and if I get this mail, and if I have more addresses, then I will send always a copy to that people also.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Marine Akhtar, are you here? Marine Akhtar, are you here? Please unmute yourself. Marine Akhtar. No, maybe. Mr. Muhammad Hassan Tipu, Muhammad Hussain Tipu, are you here, please?
Tipu from Sydney, I guess. It should be late hour there.
No, Tipu is in Dhaka now.
No, Tipu in Dhaka.
So anybody can unmute and talk. We have another, say, 10 minutes.
Khalid
Anybody
Ahmed, are you here? Khalid Ahmed? But his name is here, but he's muted maybe. He can hear, but we are not hearing him. Okay, just we can proceed. Mr. Shamsul Alam, he has no question, but Mr. Shamsul Alam, you are here. Shamsul Alam. No, we cannot hear anyone. Yes, Mr. Manohar, you have, I think, a few questions, and floor is yours.
I don't have questions, but I have some remarks to make.
Okay, please.
In the wells of Surma Basin, especially the wells of Kushiara Basin, the UMS is very easy to correlate, and up to Habiganj we can correlate the UMS very confidently from logs. But further south to Titas, it is difficult or almost difficult to correlate from logs and lithologies. And we know in Habiganj we have the huge gas reserves just below the UMS. UMS is a cap there, and it's about 120 meters thick, if I recall it correctly. It's long time back, so it is on 1984-83 that we drilled that well. This is one information. Another information is that PPL geologists, that Kaiser and Holtrop, they correlated the section of Habiganj of Sari River with one section of Patharia structure, exposed section. They proposed some correlation between, they identified, rather I should say that they identified the upper marine shell in the Patharia exposed section, and there is a correlation. This correlation is of course lithologic correlation, and it resides in the archive of BGFCL in Brahmaputra. This is for your information. There is another evidence of interesting matter, like in situ microfossils. I have seen in situ microfossils in Kamta and Rupganj wells, I think, at around 1,000 meters. It is from 950-60 meters or so. There is an assemblage of 5 or 6 forams, and those are in situ because 90% of those are not broken. So it looks like these are in situ. So this information is a very interesting information. Maybe may help people in their future works. That's it. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I thank you also very much for your information. The age assignment based on microfossils like microforaminifera or even nanoplankton, but this is even more dangerous. Many microfossils are reworked, which are more or less resistant to these turning over and over and over, or they are deposited in a more quiet environment. But the time range which they cover in their lifetime, this might be very long. Let's say long-living microfossils. they come together. They because they prefer sometimes areas where they yeah, more or less are not any more indicative for a short lifetime, but only maybe for very long coming back again. Their species is living through all the million of years. They do not change their lifestyle or their presence. They're coming back to every time. Long-term, long-living fossils, not the single species, but the whole
Assembly.
art. Yeah, the whole assembly are long-living fossils. Not living fossils, but long-living, occurring again and again through millions of years. Very old age they reach sometimes. So this is a very difficult issue, and sometimes I also have doubts with these microfossils, sometimes also with fossil plants. But then if you have these doubts, you must look for not taking it granted, I would like to say. If you find a fossil which was, let's say, characteristic for Pliocene, and you find it even until today, then you are unsure what the age is. And many other microfossils, they lived maybe from the Miocene to recent. Then it's also very difficult to take this as an age indicator. Yes,
Okay.
of course, for Miocene until now, it's okay, but not for a specific question which concerns with the Pliocene. But anyway, I'm skeptical. Let me say, if the age designation is based on microfossils, and when I got the information in the information books and charts from Cairn and Shale and Santos, I had a very good view on the quantity of fossils which they counted. Normally, you count the microfossils if there are plenty of them there. You count them 100 or 200 species, 200 pieces of microfossil until you have a good overview on the quantity, on the frequency of these fossils. But sometimes in their table lists were only one single fossil marked. And even if it's an age indicative fossil, you cannot count this as a marker for Pliocene or for Pleistocene or for lower Miocene. But they are shown altogether. This shows how empty the table, the count tables are if they have only one or two specimens shown in their charts. This cannot be used as a kind of core fossil or core marker for specific age designation.
Okay.
So the fossil side maybe it's difficult, should be seen with a question mark also until you are 100% sure that they are spreading as marker fossils in many species numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you have good ideas, this is important, go ahead and we can talk via email anytime, any day.
Sure.
I can also copy these charts. They gave it to me. I can give it to you. There was no restriction.
Okay.
If you are interested in a specific well, I can find out the relevant fossil chart from Shale or from Santos. No, Shale. These were all Cairn and Shale wells. And I got the official permission to make use whatever I like to take out, and I can send it to you if you have a specific well, and I sent you the relevant count tables, fossil count tables. This will be not difficult for me. Yeah, so we
Dr. Lee, as you permitted, I put your email address to the Mir Moinul WhatsApp group. There are 240 geoscientists, so they can easily back and forth email transfer with you and have their ideas. It's a good idea to connect you.
There's no secret on my facts and question marks. I would be happy if the more or less a question mark can be turned into a, how you call it?
Answer.
Yeah.
So from today, all our geoscientists got another chance to talk each other with everybody. I give the email address. So I think in future, stratigraphy of Bangladesh will not be an uncertain thing. It will be an established, accurate, and accepted thing.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I think, Mahin Tabassum, daughter of Mir Moinul is here. She, I think, usually present in every session. She thanked everyone who attended this meeting, and also especially Dr. Liz. She thanked on behalf of the family of Mir Moinul.
I think
you are here, please.
Mahin is here. She can talk.
Oh yes. I always remember the trip which we made. Moinul, his wife, and the daughters on that sunny day when the train.
Mahin, I think, not here.
Oh,
she was here a while ago.
Okay, Joshim is already talked about her thanks message.
Yes, and I was happy to have a picture which I sent to the family via, I think, via you, Nazim, no?
Yeah, I was there, me, my son.
Our concluding remarks will be done by our session chair, Naz Hussain. Before that, I request Mr. Badrul Imam for, I think, concluding remarks regarding whole session with few words, please. Our door is open. I think everyone can participate. I think I described in different times in your presentation. I think you can conclude it betterly.
Thank you, Nazim. Thank you, Joshim. It's been about 3 hours that you are discussing, so time is
getting short.
Very short. So the concluding remark, I think the essence of this meeting is that there is a new door open to many of us to communicate with Dr. Liz directly, and those people who are interested in stratigraphy research can now communicate more easily with him, have their questions answered or comments placed. I think that's a very benefited part of this meeting, apart from the presentation and the new data and thoughts of Dr. Liz on the stratigraphy of Bangladesh. I thank everybody and the organizer of this meeting. And that's what I want to say. Thank you.
May I answer?
Yes, please.
Brother Imam, I was very much warmed. My heart warmed when I saw you again today. And I remember all these days when we talked about, and what I admire at you is your consistency to come to the point and to stick to the topic we want to get something which is understandable and which changes our attitude, that we always will say, even in the future, now we have understood what we have to change maybe. And in this context, I think we must try to eradicate or to wipe out these names, Buban and Bokabil and Tupitila and so on. That's why I said it's astonishing that the German group members, or one or two German group members, let's say, put these charts to the people where even in the western part on the shelf area, the wells were converted into Bubans and Bokabils and so on. This is what will confuse everybody if they read the chart for Singra or for Kuchma or for Bogra with Buban and Bokabil. This should be changed, and maybe in the long run also completely changed, that you give some kind of new background for the stratigraphic names, new names. They may comprise larger areas where you have a good overview on the stratigraphic classification, but this is a matter of what we had in earlier days. I think even in the late 70s, you had a stratigraphic lexicon. You might remember this, a very thick book. And this is what we studied day and night to get into the Bangladesh stratigraphy at all. And if this kind of work can be freshed up again so that you get a stratigraphic book, if there's not a big question mark anymore, that you can proceed and take up new ideas and correspond them, especially also at the universities, to the young students, so that they can creep out a little bit from the old-fashioned use of language in stratigraphy. That's what I recommend, or what I would wish for me. Okay. And I think if we depart now, I would like to thank you all, the organizers of this committee. I wish to thank you, especially also Nazim as the chief organizer, and all other colleagues whose faces I know, but the names not yet so much, for the work which you did, giving me at all a chance and opportunity to get in touch with you all via the Visual Information Center. And my heart really warmed up today when the day came closer and closer, because I feel right now again as I'm sitting in Gulshan Avenue, Road 99, and listen to everybody of you and see you. And this gives me also a push to go ahead with my concerns in geology. And I will share everything if I get a chance with you, but email is a good support and helper. So I wish you all the best for your future. Please keep utmost care on Corona, especially nowadays where the new virus has turned up in South Africa. And this morning we learned that a big plane with African people landed in Holland. And there is also some spreading now visible. And this is always the same. Somewhere there's a hotspot with Corona, and other countries, like in the beginning, they feel free and don't care. Oh, it's far away. And the next day the virus came and knocked at their door also. So please keep healthy and happy. That's my wish. And I thank you again very, very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I request our
And-
session.
And who know me in your families, you can give them also my best regards and wishes. And if you do it again to the Moinul Hooks family, I would be very happy as well.
Okay.
Because
Thank you.
Moinul Hook,
Thank you.
let me say the final words. Moinul Hook, he was also a strong skeptic man when I spoke to him about my ideas and thoughts. He was very skeptical and reluctant. And the longer we exchanged our views, the more interested he came into that matter. And this was also a driving moment for me to keep on, to change this stratigraphy a little bit. But give my best regards to his wife and the daughters. Thank you. Then we go, everybody to his place. I stay at my place. You have to go to your place, or that's daylight or night. Okay, see you once again.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Lees.
Thank you.
I will never forget the 27th day of November when Nazim gave me the invitation. Never. Anyway,
Thank
it was a nice day for me, or afternoon, and now it's dark already a long time. Okay, all the best for you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye-bye.
Lees.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are very delighted that you came and gave us such an interesting lecture today. I think it is very interesting for all of us. We really appreciate for the time you have given. It is almost 3 hours that you are here.
Yes.
And you're really good. And I thank all the audience. We had at one point about almost 60 of them, and really appreciate for their presence at the Moinul Haq Memorial Lecture Series. And Dr. Lees was mentioning something, his daughter and his wife. I think I need to make sure that Dr. Lees knows that his wife also passed away. The children are alone right now by themselves. Anyway,
Okay, so the family saw me as well.
Yeah. So thank you so much. So thanks to everybody. And I thank to Badrul Imam also. And we will hopefully see you again on the next lecture series next month.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm also looking very much forward. And best wishes to the Moinul Haq family if they still see me.
Yes, we are in touch with them. We will tell about you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Nazim, you can finish up.
Yes, I step out now.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.